We're back again.
How's it going, folks?
I've been to the island of the Quokkas, mate.
Oh, nice.
Got me stubby coaster souvenir. It's an island off the coast. Some of the world's smallest wallabies. They're called quokkas. We went on the actual tour with my mum and my missus this week. And on the tour thing, they said the island they call Rottnest. And I see it every morning because I go swimming in the ocean. I can actually see it in the distance on the land, but I've never been there before. And they call it Rottnest, which is the European settlers thought they were giant rats. So it means rat nest, called it, which is actually fairly offensive because it's got a long history of that island through the wartime and other things, going back to the original times way before the settlers. And in their oral tradition and history, they talked about being able to walk out there, but now the ocean is like filled in the gaps. So you got to take the big ferry out there. But I think it's something like Wadjamup is like closer to the original name, and they should call it that name. Calling it a fucking rat nest after all these years, it's a bit demented. Just because some European explorers went in looking for fresh water and they couldn't find any because it's got salt lakes there.
And plus, they're way too cute to be lumped in with rats.
Yeah, they're beautiful, and they're about the size of, I don't know, a football or a soccer ball or a human skull in terms of they're very round and the size of them, and they're absolutely adorable critters.
Are they friendly to people?
Yeah, well, unfortunately so, because they like when you go to the park and people feed the bloody birds and ducks and all that, they expect it now. The inland ones further in from the tourist centre, they live about 12 years, or their natural lifespan. The ones around the tourist centre and the restaurant things out there can live about 5-6 years because people feed them scraps and they scavenge like seagulls do all the crap on the ground. And it basically, it's not good for them. It ends up shortening their lifespan, or they get sick or diseases from humans coughing on them and shit like that.
Yeah, humans suck.
Yep, they suck. I, for one, hope that we get colonized by giant ants.
Yeah, damn. Great movie.
Yeah, awesome classic. Unfortunately, I'm not talking about that tonight, but I've got to start things off at least with the right letter. And eventually my Swiss cheese memory will get closer to an actual film we're talking about. But I think tonight's one, or today's one, or this morning, depending on where you are, is about a film. There's some nasty bad guys, and they can see us, but we can't see them. I think it was called Uncle Buckaroo Banzai. I think that was it, but don't quote me on it. No, I don't think that's actually the movie, is it? It's not. It's different. Not quite. It's a little bit halfway there. It could be.
That movie needs to be made.
Could be the Brewski brothers, like a brew and like to buy and consume and obey, but it's not. It's not. That's not the film. A little bit closer. Could be Hobo with a shotgun. I feel like this guy's in the film we're going to look at least. At least it's the right guy.
He's a bit hobo looking too.
Yeah, he's a good hobo. Tough hobo. I wouldn't mess with him. I wouldn't mess with this guy either, and they escape. That's like my fan fiction follow-up sequel to both of these films where they don't team up. They just get really pissed off and don't cooperate, but it's like Dawn of the Dead style, and they just like end of the world. They run into each other and have to team up at the end, but they don't really team up. This in the same place at the same time because they're both like, solo guys. It would work.
You're too badass to work together.
Yeah. Which brings us to the actual proper thing. And it is in 3D, guys, so get your truth goggles on. There you go. Can you see inside my skull now?
Johnny, you look like shit.
I do.
No, not at all. I can tell you now, viewing audience, do not fear. I have confirmed that Johnny is indeed human. And he's one of the good ones too. He's not like those sucky ones that are making those poor little wallabies not live as long by feeding them garbage.
I'm only 20% evil, as will be evidenced in coming weeks when I finish my skeleton motivational seminar.
It's the right level of evil. We do still need that balance of good and evil in our souls.
Mm-hmm.
So, as long as your good is just nudging out the evil, you're okay.
Yeah. There's a bit of mood building here. I'm going to play a little quick bit of nonsense before we kick off into the main thing. Get the sidebar to come back again because it's collapsed on me, which is not helpful. So this is just a little bit of music to get us in the mood. Yeah, old Joel Carpenter, master using the old minimalist score and doing it himself. Well, he did work with someone else on this one, the other good bloke in there, Alan Howarth, but he does that distinctive style. I love all his scores and themes.
I love the theme to this movie. The musical soundtrack is just excellent, and that piece you just played, there's a real the lone hero walking into the western town looking to clean the place up. You
and
can
it does have
almost
that western
picture,
overtone.
you can almost picture to the beat someone walking into town.
Mm-hmm.
New sheriffs coming to town.
I like the cool fade-in intro. We get the old John Carpenter on the black screen with that basic font that we all love and know as being John Carpenter there. And then it comes into the graffiti wall where it's got like "They Live" there. It's a cool transition.
It's awesome. And yeah, the signature John Carpenter font, which you kind of ruined for me.
It was like a house font.
Yeah, so it was the cheapest one they could use essentially. Yeah. So
it's like if you get Windows or an Apple and turn your thing on, you've got like basic video editing software or a basic font that comes pre-installed. It's like the pre-installed font.
So when we last checked in to the Carpenter verse, we were reviewing and remarking upon Escape from New York, but now we're
LA.
Now we're going to go to LA, but not to escape LA because we'll get to that another day.
Yep.
So yeah, They Live, a classic and a childhood favorite of mine. And it's
I only saw some of Carpenter's films when I was younger, but I don't think I saw this the first time until about 15 years ago at a friend's house over in Frankston, and he likes a lot of films. I like a lot of films, and he had a massive collection. I'm staying there every night, and he's like, "Have you seen this one?" I was like, "No." He's like, "We're putting it on now." I was like, "All right, I'm watching it now."
You got to see this. It's important.
Yeah. Like now, it's I mean, I like all John Carpenter's films. I mean, some of the later ones are kind of not great, but that's kind of, I had lesser budget and it was harder times going into the 90s trying to get any kind of deal put together. I don't really blame him. But I would say this, if I go top three, it's got to be this, Escape from New York, and The Thing. And I would probably, if you asked me 10 years ago, it would have been Escape from New York and The Thing, my two favorites. But now I would say Thing is my number one, and this is my number two John Carpenter film, or just of all time, my top two.
Yeah, I would go with The Thing, They Live, The Fog.
Oh, The Fog. Fog would be number four for me. I love Fog.
Yeah, it's tough. He's got so many good ones. It's tough because Halloween obviously is a brilliant one, in which I also.
Halloween's great. If I was more a Michael Myers fan, that would probably be my top three. Well, objectively, I might say Halloween's his best overall actual film. Quality wise and that, and just everything that went into it. But I'm just not that much of a fan of slasher films, despite having watched all the Fridays twice and Nightmares about 3 times and all that.
Yeah, well, you for someone who's not a fan, you've still watched plenty of them.
Oh yes, but I'd rather see, I don't know, monsters or aliens than just a unstoppable guy who just can't die and has superpowers, but he doesn't, and he can regenerate from the dead. And I'd rather watch Jason as a crazy zombie in the later ones where he's all melting face under the lake and all that.
Yeah, the crazier the better. We don't need them to be too human.
Yeah. Well, give me some
read
weird
enough about
Star Wars guys from an alternate dimension like Phantasm. Go watch that shit.
I can read about real slasher killers in the
Yeah,
daily
yeah,
news.
exactly. That's kind of it. It's too close to real life. I'm like, okay, my missus has already got a pile of serial killer books that I don't want to read or know about. And
We're certainly not watching a slasher movie today. We're back to good old wholesome sci-fi.
yeah, it's a real hybrid too, because it's kind of like it's sci-fi. It's got bits of action. It's got bits of like nods to old 50s alien invasion films. It's got nods to other styles. It's a real kind of hybrid film, but it works, and it's a more relatively low budget, about 3 million he made it for. But you can't tell watching it. You get fantastic production value out of John Carpenter films, and unlike in Escape from New York, where you're shooting all through the night shoots, here there's just about everything in this film was in the day, except for a few bits here and there. So using just real LA for most of the on location shoots is how he made the budget work. And there is some good use of like matte shots and stuff in this film that are most of them are so good. I couldn't even pick them. You'd have to really be watching like on a cinema screen or a big like 50-inch HD to really pick them, because on a smaller screen you can't even really notice where the matte shots are that fill in some of the gaps.
Yeah. And to be honest with you, it wasn't until I was kind of trolling through the various commentaries and making of featurettes and stuff where they actually point out when something is a matte shot or an optical effect. I was like, oh, right. It isn't a real building. You know, after all these years, you finally notice it when somebody points it out
It's
to
not
you.
really Roddy Piper that cut and pasted his head. That's what I heard.
Yeah, and that's what he heard as well, apparently, when he went back to the wrestling business, that the fellow wrestlers did not believe that he could look so good. And he does
Of
look
course he can.
really good in
He
this
did.
movie.
Yeah, he's very, very buff and fit in this one. And he's like, he does like he is a kind of small, you would call him like a light heavyweight rather than a heavyweight in the wrestling in it.
But yeah, we'll kick off here with They Live. So essentially, we are introduced to the character of John Nada. He's a wandering working man, probably a bit down on his luck. We see him kind of wandering the streets before attending this kind of what we'd call these days here is like a job center or an employment center, where essentially
Just
if
a
you're out of
shithole
work,
we call
you
it.
yeah, if you're out of work, you're going to go to this place. You're going to see if there's any job opportunities going. He sits down with a fairly indifferent acting, administrator, and he's kind of
She's
giving her a
great. She's
sob
perfect
story.
admin lady.
Oh yeah, she plays the role to a hilt.
I don't give a fuck
Real
admin
method
lady.
acting. Because you've got John Nada, poor Roddy Piper. He's spinning her the sob story about how he used to work in a steel mill and all the jobs went, and you can just tell by the look on this woman's face that she's heard this story a million times before. She doesn't care. It's just stamp and
Yep.
next. We'll call you. We'll call you if a job offer comes up.
And he's not a bum. He's a hard worker. And this is like during all the Reaganomics in the early to mid 80s, where you had a lot of industry downturns, industries just collapsing, outsourcing, all kinds of shit going, where people are just out of jobs overnight and lost whole industries. Some people lost their families, lost homes, lost cars, all sorts of stuff.
And we see him. He leaves the job center and he's wandering the streets. He is kind of watching a blind preacher give a sermon. He's not entirely sure what he's preaching about. But he eventually wanders around till he finds a building site where he kind of asks around to see if they're looking for any extra hands to do a bit of hard labor. This is where we're also introduced to the other kind of main good guy in the movie, played by
Keith
Keith
David.
Knight.
Or
Yeah, he's
Goliath.
Keith David. Yeah, he's brilliant actor, and he's also brilliant in another John Carpenter movie, The Thing, where he plays a lead role in that as
And a
well.
good
Where he
voiceover
goes,
actor too. Done a lot of voice character work over the years. And he
he has.
narrated the whole documentaries on quite a few times on WWE.
I was just about to say, yes, he's narrated plenty of wrestling material, so he's well suited to be co-starring with Roddy Piper here. Um, but yeah, so Piper he meets him on the construction site, and he does his day's work. When the day's work is finished, he asks the foreman, when do we get paid? And you don't get paid till Thursday, and it's clear he could just do with some money so he could get some food and a place to stay, but he's not getting paid till Thursday. So Pete David, the good guy that he is, he's like, look, man, I'm going to this campsite where they serve hot food, and you can get a nice hot meal, and there's shower facilities and stuff to clean yourself up and just get by. So we have the kind of early seeds of a friendship being established here between Keith David and Piper. It's a real kind of there's times when you're watching this movie where it's so on the nose to how current life is. It's nearly scary, because you
Yeah,
do see a lot of, well, maybe you don't see it, but depending on where you're living, the phenomenon of the working homeless, like, it is a real
well,
thing,
the
and
tent cities have
it
only gotten
was for
bigger in LA in the decades since.
exactly. You've got people who, they're essentially living in these tent cities, these kind of slum areas, but they still go to work every day, and work jobs, and it's not that kind of stereotype of the bum who just doesn't work and
Yeah,
is a junkie or whatever. It's actual people who are just trying to get by, and trying to make a living, and for whatever reason they've just been left behind, they've been squeezed out, they've fallen through the net. You get the impression that it's probably a lot of other people who are in a similar situation to Nada, who
yeah,
probably at one time they worked in a very specific skills area, and now jobs in that particular
mm,
area
yeah.
have
The
dried up.
industry's just gone. Like the old what's that one? That bloody Michael Moore one about the Detroit and the cars, and that all collapsed, and the whole town just went under.
That's right. That's right. So we start getting introduced to a few of the surrounding ancillary characters here that we're going to meet throughout the movie. We also see the Brewski brothers sitting down to enjoy some TV outside for the evening, and we get
Often
our
TV outside in the dry weather, but not in the bloody wet season. There.
yeah. It's our first glimpse into, I suppose, the idea that all is not quite as it seems in
Yeah,
this
it's not all
world.
kosher.
We've the two guys, they're watching TV. Next thing, the signal on the TV goes a bit wonky, and we're presented with a guy who's coming through all fuzzy, and he's
It's
trying
like
to
hack
warn
the network.
people. He's hacked the network, and he's saying things like, wake up,
Watch the
you're
Boba
asleep,
Joe show.
they're already here. Yeah, it's there's this presence on the TV trying to warn them about something, but before we can really get into the meat of the matter, the transmission is cut, and we go back to our regularly scheduled programming.
Yeah, I do like, to the credit of old John Carpenter, who directed and wrote the final script of this based on a short story. During these opening scenes in the kind of shanty town in LA, the food, they cooked up real food, and they used actual homeless people as extras and fed them while on the set of the film, which is good production value when you've got no budget, and also doing something useful for people instead of hiring in extras and having fake food made out of wax or whatever.
Yeah, and how insulting to the locals would it have been to have watched actors go up and be
Yeah, like
served
making up
hot
right
food?
next to them.
Yeah, no, that was a good call by Carpenter to do something like
Mm,
that, and it also adds to the realism of the movie, because
yeah.
apart from our kind of center stage actors, you do get this real authentic gritty feeling of everybody else who's around the area, that they are indeed living this life, and this is their day-to-day existence.
Hmm. And so, man, Piper or Nada, There's a church on site here next to this shanty town, and he discovers in the evening hears sort of like music and sounds. I think people are singing in there, and he goes to check it out, and the building's just like empty, and there's just like speakers playing a recordings, and he thinks something weird, kind of, you know, weird's going on here, but he doesn't know what. But he goes to check it out and finds that there's like speakers and like you can hear people talking through like a false wall in the next room. I don't know if it's gone out of bloody order here. Let me just check my. I've got this saved on the side over here. I want to check if it's skipped over one. What's happening there? No, I think it's in order. I thought I had this slide in there, but showing the speakers. That's all right. It's all good.
Yeah, but it's no, as you described, he enters this church on the sly. He sneaks in. He can see, yeah, there's like a speaker set up, just playing choir music, and that's to, you know, to give the impression that there actually is a, you know, an actual gospel choir or
Just as
something
a cover.
practicing in the building. But yeah, but it's really just a cover so these people can meet and discuss plans that we're actually not sure as to what they are yet. We know that there's something fishy going on, and nada, he does see tables set up with various kind of chemicals and vials, and he sees that they've got the these rows and rows of
Oh,
sunglasses.
I
So
do have it. I do have it. Yeah.
he
Accidentally got cut out of there. Oh,
he had
you keep telling us
accidentally
about this. I'm going to upload it as a separate image, and I'll be able to overlay it in a minute if you tell us about this soon.
cool. So he accidentally kind of falls into this false wall, as you mentioned, and he just decides that because there's like a little kind of hidey hole there, he takes one of the boxes of sunglasses and he just kind of stuffs it inside and covers it up. And just as he's about to leave to sneak out of the church, he's confronted by the blind preacher who we briefly saw earlier on, and he's all kind of feeling his face and grabbing his face, trying to
Oh, yeah.
identify him, and you know,
There we go.
so
I'm going
he
to take us off
there
from it
we
because
go.
it's popping overlay. But somehow when I was editing all these together, this one got left out. But now we see in the top left, he's found the chemicals. They live, we sleep. We see the guys in the church and the blind guy touching his face because it's, you know, he wants to trust and see if he's any good. And we get this weird raid in the middle of the night where like the police helicopter turns up. Then there's like a SWAT van, but it says Scientific Investigation Division on it. I'm like, is that a thing in LA SWAT? I've never heard of that one. They turn up and just like real jackboot thug style, just raid this church and place in the shanty town and start just like smacking people around and like just human rights abuses left and right. You don't know why they're there or what the hell they're doing.
If I had to guess, and even though it's not really like said in the commentary, and it's definitely not said in any type of dialogue, but yeah, the scientific invests on the side of the van. When we kind of see briefly, you know, they approach that guy. I guess you could call him the lead bum or the lead hobo. We'll see him again
Yeah.
later on in the movie. He was one of the Brewski brothers. I wonder, are they rounding up guys like that they think they're going to use as kind of double agents or eyes on the street? Maybe they get loaded
Or it
into
could
the
be
old scientific
anyone that
van.
may be seeing this transmission that's been cutting into the TV that even suspects anything weird's going on. It's hard to say, but I mean, it works in the film's favor. It's not trying to play all its cards too soon and give things away. It leaves you wondering what's actually going on. It's good. It works.
And it's a very chaotic and an intense moment in
Yeah,
the
Piper picks
movie
up a
because
kid and like grabs and hugs him like he was a dad and had lots of kids. And he said during that scene the guy was scared and he just grabbed him, was like hugging him like for real. It was just so chaotic.
and it's really hardcore because we see the guy who we noticed for a few seconds earlier who had hacked the TV signal, he's getting like beat up by a bunch of cops. Like they're literally just like batoning the shit out of his arms and legs and like
Yeah.
really just
I
doing
didn't
him
try and
in.
arrest them. They just turn up and start beating the hell out of him.
Yeah. And even the poor blind preacher is you know, put up against the wall and gets the nuts knocked out of him like by a bunch of
Yeah.
these cops. So yeah, Piper, he or John Nada, I should say, he sees this kid who's kind of hiding. He'd been talking to him earlier at the campsite, so he kind of grabs him and they run. I don't know about you, but for me, definitely, when I was rewatching this whole kind of moment of the campsite being raided and cleared off, I think it was like the whole like red flares and just the
Yeah.
nighttime setting. I was getting real Escape from New York
Oh yeah, for sure,
vibes.
for sure.
It just
Yeah, I
really
definitely was
reminded me
thinking
of
of that.
when Lee Van Cleef and his crew of guards enter New York to try and rescue the president the first time round. They have all these red flares and
Well, he's taken
guys
what he's
with
learned
riot
from his other
shields.
films and used it very effectively here on that minimal budget, and that he knows, we've gone from bright, sunny daytime LA, not unlike Perth, lots of fires, lots of sunshine, and now we're getting little brief nighttime shoots. He's definitely, using those skills he's learned on other films here very well.
And we so Nada, the kid, and a couple of other people who've escaped, they kind of spend the night then in this kind of derelict building, just waiting out the chaos. And we then see the results of the next morning of what's left of the campsite, which isn't very much. A lot of the people
Nah,
have been cleared off, and the people who are left are kind of left scavenging among the kind of remains of what's left, just to try and see if they can get
right when you go
pieces
to
of
the
their
Sunday
property
market,
or
they're all
clothes.
packed up and gone home.
Yeah, it's a harsh clampdown on this working homeless community. But that kind of brings us back to Nada. He's obsessed with this church and what was going on there. So, and he noticed that during the raid it was one of the main targets of the authorities. So he decides to go back inside and have a look around, and the whole place is completely gutted. However, he has stashed a box of these peculiar sunglasses in that kind of false wall that we mentioned earlier on,
Yeah,
and the box is still there. So he manages to kind of sneak it out of the place and dump the contents of it in a bin down an alley, which is the decision that later on he's going to regret when he tries to get more pairs of these glasses. But
yeah,
so look, he hides the box of glasses, and he decides to one pair falls on the ground, so he picks up that pair and tries them on, and then all of a sudden we begin to see the world in a different light.
yeah. All the advertising and signs and commercial media around him has a surface appearance, and when he puts these glasses on, you can see what's actually there, and it's been called like subliminal or subconscious conditioning, which does have like there's all kinds of crazy CIA experiments and all sorts of shit that go back decades where they're trying to do remote viewing and brainwash people and fucking Manchurian candidate sort of shit. So it taps into all that, some real life sort of stuff there, as well as the actual Reaganomics and free market commercialization stuff going on in the 80s, were about, be a good consumer and keep America going and buy everything and don't question anything. Just smile and be happy and nod like the smiling faces on the news.
And it's it's one of those things. It's I think these next few moments we're going to go through in the movie, they're almost more famous than the movie itself, because
Yeah,
you'll see these days there's so many kind of memes and clothing apparel and all sorts of stuff that are kind of geared around this, obey, consume.
mm.
Um,
It's become commercial now. It's
yes,
become
ironically,
like Jim Morrison or Che Guevara on a T-shirt. It's like, yeah, Viva la Revolution, buy your T-shirt at Kmart. Great. Now this stuff, obey, and the face of the zombie guys has become a thing, commercial thing as well.
but
Get your neck a figure.
it's such a clever visual and such a clever
Yeah,
storytelling technique that they use. So it's established that as soon as the glasses are on your eyes and you go to read a sign or the cover of a magazine, you actually see what the real message is. So when your
yeah.
glasses are off, you're just looking at it and it's like, a Spider-Man comic or whatever. But then when you put your glasses on and look at it, it says,
It's an alien
do not
parasite.
question authority, yeah, no independent thought,
Yeah,
obey. And
it's another low budget tactic because it's showing the audience visually. You know, the glasses is the visual thing. We know that we're seeing what he's seeing when he takes them off and on. Because if it was just all in color, you wouldn't know, is he looking at it or is someone else looking at it? It's a very good little motif like that works. And I like when he's at the newsstand here and he's doing the off-on business, looking at magazines and newsstand stuff, and we see he's looking at articles here about classroom disarmament, about guns getting in the hand of the kids, and there's stuff here about the police, and then there's stuff here about office buildings and costs and this and that. I don't know if they've made this up, or it looks like a fairly genuine full article magazine. So they might have used an actual thing, or they might have wrote it themselves. But I was reading bits of this earlier, and it's a full article. It's all in there. It's not just a prop. But if it's a prop, it's a very good one. But I think they might have used an actual magazine. And the background behind them, we get some fun things that you don't really notice because the scene's fairly quick. But we get Edgar Cayce on ESP on the spinner rack. I used to have that book. The middle one, Two of a Kind, the something or other, Stranglers. I looked up earlier. I'm not familiar with that, but I don't know if the theme anything to do with the film, but just the two, just the number two of a kind, like the duality. I think that was kind of the thing. And then under that, you get the Bermuda Triangle. So they're all mysterious, weird sort of books and stuff. And my favorite one on the right side, we've got Golf, Let TV Teach You. And then we've got Cher's boobs on a magazine cover there.
Typical enough newsstand stuff right there.
Yeah, and they got money. You've got money and work, and I think it's investor or investor magazines in the middle. So it's very deliberate with the ones that are all put there. But most of them are, you know, real magazines and that, I think. Well, they're very typical there.
And up until this moment, where he reaches the newsstand, up until now, we've only been seeing that it's the messages that are hidden. But now, when he actually looks at a customer at this newsstand, he sees what we see before us now, and that's this disgusting skull / ghoul like rotten looking
like no nose,
individual.
no skin, ghoul man. It's like if you take someone's skin off a nose and it's like what's underneath, you know, if they're doing like surgery or something, it's disgusting. And he's in black and white, and we're lucky it's in black and white because they look so much more horrendous if they're not in black and white.
Yes, and the guy, obviously one of these aliens / ghoul guys, they're not aware that the average Joe can see them, or at least that some people can see them. So this guy sees Nada looking at him. He's like, "What's your problem, pal?" You know, and he's just kind of staring him out of it. And I also love there's just a nice little moment here as well where Nada, he keeps kind of putting the glasses on and off, where he's kind of switching between what is normal vision and what is the truth. And he looks at the money in the shopkeeper's hand, and on the money it just says, "This is your God," which is that's
right.
That's some strong messaging right there.
Yeah.
So he's wandering around with his glasses on. He's seeing these ghouls here and there, and he wanders into a
Golden
grocery
ghouls.
store. This grocery store. Now, apparently, this is the most expensive set in the entire movie because they actually built a grocery store from scratch so they could actually cover all the items in that black and white, you know, messaging, because they worked out, I think, that if they were to go and actually go on location to a real store, it would cost and take too much time to actually go and individually itemize all these different products and try and spruce them up. So they ended up building their own replica store set and setting it up in the whole black and white imagery of the alien messaging. But just an hilarious moment where Nada, he's got his glasses on, he accidentally shoulders into a lady who's walking past, and she turns around and gives him the look, and he's all like, "Oh, excuse me," and he's wearing his glasses, and he's just like, I can't remember. He's like, "You know, you look like you stuck your head in the fondue bowl back in 1952 or something," he says. And I can't remember what the exact line is, but he's taking the glasses off and he's looking at the shop assistants and he's looking back at this woman and he's like, you look okay, but this one real fucking ugly." You know, he's just
And that's when she knows that she can, that he can see that she's a weird ghoul alien thing, and starts calling. Right. She has a little like wristwatch thing, like Dick Tracy style. Is like, we've got one that can see us, and calls the police, who are more ghoul people.
Yeah, and the ghoul police are way more efficient than your average police, because as soon as he goes outside,
they turn up for one.
Oh yeah, they show up fast, because like as soon as he's out on the street, he's pulled down an alley by these two cops, these two ghoulish alien cops.
It's Robert Patrick's younger brothers. That's why they turned up.
Oh yeah, he's a good-looking boy. So they pull him down an alley, and they're like, "Where did you get those sunglasses?" And he won't tell them, and he's given them a lot of lip. And the kind of lead cop, he's like, "Well, you look as shitty to us as we look to you. You're just..." and they're trying to. We still don't know fully yet what's going on, but the cop is kind of saying, "Look, you've stumbled upon this situation. Why don't you just calmly get in the car with us, and maybe we can go cut a deal, and this will actually work out in your favor?" And Nada, for a moment, you think for a moment, oh well, like maybe he is going to go along, and he kind of puts his arm out as if he's going to let him kind of take him by the arm, and then next thing, he hits him with the classic Piper clothesline. He knocks the shit out of the cop, and then manages to disarm the other cop and shoot them as well. So
he didn't smash him on the head with the coconut stove. He could have followed up with that.
Yeah. Well, look, at this point in the movie, you really hope this he's not gone crazy, because otherwise he's just killed a cop in cold blood. But yeah, he shoots the cop, and I believe he has the line like, "Oh, I see you bastards die just like us." So we know that these ghoulish aliens are in fact mortal in many ways, and they can be killed. And as a result of taking out these two cops, he now has access to the armaments that they carry in the squad car. So he gets himself a nice pump-action shotgun.
Is that where he gets the shotgun? Because they do have, whenever I see stuff in LA, they have that shotgun in that rack in the car.
That's my assumption, that that's where he got the stuff. He pretty much disarmed the.
It makes sense, because that was like standard even back then. But I don't know when they brought in the big locks. Like, it's usually in the movie, you'll see it's like vertical, and because it's in a big locking, like D-lock, bike lock kind of mechanism thing.
So he wanders into a bank. He's got his sunglasses on, and then he utters the infamous line. What's that line, Johnny?
I'm here to buy lots of women's shoes.
I think the line is
that it?
I'm here to pick bubble gum and chew ass.
Chew bubble gum and chew ass.
I want to chew ass, and I'm all out of ass. Is that the line?
Well, that's no. He's here to chew bubble gum and kick ass, and he's all out of gum. And he wrote that line himself. And as far as you know, it existed before the movie, because it was from some of his wrestling and other stuff he'd written in a notebook, all kinds of things he'd done for promos and other stuff he'd had. And John Carpenter liked, and and they agreed to use it in the film.
Well, he goes on a riotous killing spree, more or less, in this bank. He starts unloading with the shotgun, and we also see that the little wristwatch device that the ghoulish aliens use, it doesn't just act as a communicator, it also acts as like a portable teleporter, because just as he's about to nail this guy, he literally disappears right in front of his eyes. So he does a legger out of the bank. He's on the street, and he looks up and he sees that he's been spied on by this kind of little weird drone floating spy thing. So he takes that out as well, and
I can remember the first time I ever heard that line, because it was actually years before I saw this movie, in the Duke Nukem first person shooter game in the 90s, like the Doom style game. He quotes that line too, about the chew bubble gum and kick ass. It's the first time I ever heard it.
Well, look, as long as he's not chewing ass and kicking bubble gum, everything's going to be okay. Because that stuff gets stuck to your shoes. It is a pain to get off if you're kicking bubble gum. So Nada, he's on the run. He's after causing a load of chaos. He wanders into a underground car park, and he comes up behind a lady who's just about to get into the car, kind of forces her into the vehicle and instructs her to drive him to get him out of Dodge. Very, very striking looking young woman
Yes.
played. Um, it's, I believe the character's name is Holly, and I could be wrong there though. But the lady, it's the same
Yep.
lady anyway
Meg
who plays
Foster, Holly.
Evelyn. Meg Foster is the actress's name. Yeah, she plays Holly. Meg Foster, who I'm sure some of our viewers will know from the Masters of the Universe movie, where she plays
Yes.
Evelyn.
And she's in
Very
a heap of low
striking
budget
eyes.
horror movies.
Yeah, she yeah, great looking woman. Her eyes are intense. She almost looks like she could be an alien or some type of evil
Hmm.
being with
It
those
reminds me
intense
of a young
eyes.
Kirstie Alley too. The look of her with the
Yeah, she'd fit right in as a Vulcan crew member on the
yeah.
Enterprise. So anyway,
But yeah, no,
Nada,
good casting with her. She's excellent.
yeah, she is. She's excellent, and I'm surprised she wasn't in more kind of, for want of a better term, upmarket things. As you mentioned, she did a lot of
Yeah.
kind of B movie, sci-fi
Mm,
horror stuff, but she never really did much kind of in the more mainstream, broader
yeah.
kind of stuff. But so yeah,
Yeah.
look,
Mostly like
Nada,
TV stuff and low budget horror.
he has her at gunpoint in the car. He establishes that she lives alone, so he's like, take me to your place so I can like hide out or what have you. And you know, Holly, she's interesting. You definitely know that she's not your average kind of damsel in distress. She remains
Yeah.
very calm during this entire kind of moment spent with Nada, and you know, he's sitting there on her sofa, and kind of he's in a bad way, because the way it works with the sunglasses is the longer you wear them, when you take them off, you get these like pillar migraines and stuff. It's not a good feeling apparently to be wearing these
Yeah.
sunglasses
They
for
say it's
too long
almost like
a time.
the sunglasses on. It makes you a little bit high, a little bit spaced out, and you take them off, and it gives you headaches. And
Yeah, it's like
I love
coming
when you
down
see
off
that.
a drug.
We see this guy with the open shirt and the big hair, and when I see that guy in the film, it's not the same actor, but when I see him, I just think, oh man, that's like the chunky undercover guy from Miami Vice from like the other team. It's like
He does kind of
not
look like
Crockett
him.
Tubbs, but the other two guys are always on the van arguing with each other, good friends. It's like the guys he's always wearing exactly clothes and shit like that.
So we're here in Holly's apartment, and Nada's trying to tell her, look, you gotta understand. There's these creatures. They're all around us, and nobody knows. And you know, look, put these glasses on. If you put these glasses on, you'll see what I'm talking about. And you know, Holly is very calmly saying, look, um, I'll put those glasses on, but whether I see what you're saying or not, I'm just going to say that I see it anyway, because you're a madman with a gun in my house. So like
And is she
whatever
doing?
you tell
I'm
me.
not quite sure in the scene, but is he just tired, or she's doing like some kind of hypnosis thing in this scene?
I think he's just tired because of the
Right.
glasses.
Okay.
I think the glasses have really messed him up, and
Right, right.
that's
It's
why
just
he's
the way
in
she's
such a
talking
bad
to him. He
shape.
starts kind of like falling asleep almost, and I was like a stage hypnotist, and I didn't know if it was just the way they shot it or what was quite what was going on.
I think the longer you wear the glasses for, the harder it is to recover.
Yeah,
Like it really messes you up.
I
But
imagine it'd be
anyway,
like
he's
being underwater or in space or something, like a scuba suit or anything that changes your perceptions and the way you move, and it's going to affect you. I love how this scene is so relaxed and calm, and you think, well, he's basically kidnapped this lady, but she's taking it pretty well, and she seems very like a strong, confident woman. And she's not just strong; she's so confident. She just shoves him out a window. Next moment, no warning at all.
it's
Didn't
it's brilliant
telegraph that
because
at all. Like it's
she
something she
goes
just
to
does
get
every
up.
day. Just whoop out the window. It's a massive, giant plate glass window.
He Nada's kind of spaced out of it, like lying on the ground or on the carpet or whatever, and she goes to get up, and he's like, "What are you doing?" She's like, "I'm thirsty. I'm going to get a drink." And he's kind of looking out the window and he's about to say something, and yeah, she just fucking wallops
And
him
it's at least
right
two, if not
across the head.
2.5 stories up when the stuntman takes a really good tumble and real fall. It's good.
Yeah, so yeah, out of nowhere, she just smashes that bottle over his head, and he takes the
And the
tumble
first
out the
time you've seen
window.
it, it's just like, holy shit, I didn't see that coming.
And we also briefly see her pick up the phone and call somebody. We assume is the police, though we're not entirely sure who just it is yet that she's calling. So nada, he's really fucked up from that dive he took out the window, but he manages to kind of scarp her off before the cops come.
He
And
takes a bump and
later
keeps on
on,
seeing.
yeah, he bumps for the business, brother.
Yeah.
And so he scarpers off, and he finds his way back to the construction site that he was working on with Keith David, and you
He's
know
not happy about him
he
murdering random people instead of
he is
going to
not
work.
happy to see him at all. Because he's heard all about this guy. He's like, you're all over the news. You shot up a
He's gone
bank.
schizo.
You know, the cops are after you. So he doesn't want anything to do with him, but he does
Mm.
kind of begrudgingly follow him off site. And he's like, look, I'm going to give you some money. You're obviously like, you've got problems, you're crazy, but look here, take this money
He
and
just
just
thinks,
go
he's like a
away.
hobo from out of town and he's gone nuts, but he still treats him fairly well for a guy who's been running around murdering
Yes.
people.
Yeah, exactly. But poor Nada, he's tried to retrieve the box of sunglasses that he dumped in the alley earlier, but it's just been picked up by a
In the garbage.
bin truck, by waste disposal truck, garbage truck, whatever you want to call it. So he manages to retrieve one pair of glasses before being unceremoniously dumped from the back of the trunk or back of the truck. And just as this is happening is when Keith David reappears to offer him the money. And then we get one of my favorite fight scenes in any movie ever, from when Nada tries to convince Frank to put the glasses on. And
He does
what a
not want
fight.
to put those glasses on.
He does not want to put those glasses on. Not this year, as he defiantly says in the middle of the fight, but this fight, I can only say, look, folks, if you haven't actually watched this movie and you're kind of depending on us to
Goes for about
describe,
6 actual minutes of full running time.
yeah, like we could not do this fight justice to give
No
you
way.
like a
He's
blow
filmed
by
for something
blow
like
account.
3 days or something just to get this scene.
And it's apparently loosely inspired by a fight scene in The Quiet Man. And I know the
Yeah.
fight scene that they're
Yeah.
talking about where Sean Thornton and the guy just like boxed the shit out of each other for ages. Um, it's not
It's
as
a real
comedic as
knockdown
that scene.
brawl with a few wrestling moves chucked in there as well.
Yeah, we do. We get to see a couple of back suplexes, clotheslines. Yeah, it looks like they really, really fuck each other up. And yeah, like I said, it goes on for a good 6, 7 minutes of just back and forth,
Mm.
punching,
I love in the
gouging.
commentary, Piper, who's obviously used to taking knocks and wrestling and was homeless in real life as a teenager and got stabbed and got into real street fights and all kinds of horrible shit. But Keith David was like more of an actor's actor and a dancer and other stuff, coordinated, but not really a fighter. And when they were first practicing, there's a point where Piper's like, you got to actually hit me, man. You got to actually hit me, not just like touch or slap. You got to actually hit me, or it's not going to work.
You gotta stiff me, brother. But
Yeah, because Keith David's like, he's trying to be like, I don't want to actually hurt him, but Piper's like, just fucking hit me. He's getting it all the time with his regular wrestling work.
seriously, folks, if you've not watched this movie, even if you have no intention of ever watching this movie, at
Yeah, I'll
least
go this
go
scene.
onto YouTube and watch this scene because, like I said, me and Johnny giving you a blow-by-blow account would not do it justice. You really have to go and watch this
Probably,
fight.
more
It's
people
an
have seen the
epic
South
fight.
Park recreation of it by now.
Yeah. And look, there's some nasty stuff in it. Like there's like eye gouging. There's multiple low
Oh yeah,
blows, like knees to the balls.
absolute
It's
mess
just a really.
afterwards, and you can see it in their faces.
But finally, he convinces Frank to put the glasses on. and all of a sudden he knows now what the situation is. So we get this
Oh yeah.
awesome
Now it's the
moment
Blues
of
Brothers.
the,
They got the matching shades.
yeah, the Blues Brothers walking through the streets. They're both so fucked up. They're limping because they're after like kicking 7 shades of shite out of each other. They
And if you saw
find
these two walking at night with those sunglasses on, their faces all messed up. Maybe I'll be crossing the street.
oh yeah, yeah. I'd want nothing to do with these guys. But they find a kind of seedy motel place that they can slip into and hide out
Yeah,
for the
get
evening.
that nice
And
sunset.
we also get the explanation from Nada about how the glasses are a little bit like a drug, and that if you wear them too long, it will mess you up. Because Keith David, when he takes his off, he starts to notice that he's not feeling too good either. And through staying in this place, they actually get word by running into a couple of the characters from the kind of homeless site earlier on, that there's going to be this meeting among people who are also aware of what's going on. Essentially, the same crew of guys that were hanging around the church and the kind of site earlier on that we saw near the beginning of the movie. They're having this almost kind of secret or totally secret meeting. Really, they're almost like an uprising,
Yeah,
and
it's
they're
like an
planning
organised
on
resistance, like Terminator style.
yes,
I mean, smaller
perfect way to
scale.
describe it. And they thankfully for our heroes, they're shown that they don't actually need to wear the glasses anymore. They're given these contact lenses, which will save them from having to take the glasses on and off. But they
Don't
also
look as
don't have the
cool.
residual. They don't look as cool, but they also don't have the residual side effects of getting piercing headaches like the way you would
Yeah,
from wearing the glasses. So we get this kind of ramshackle group of people. They're trying to plot the downfall of the alien race, and they're trying to
and bloody yuppies.
come up with ways, yeah, come up with ways where they can let people know the truth about what's going on. And we see at this meeting that Holly from earlier on has shown up, and
Yeah, how
Nada
convenient
meets
she's
her, and
showing up.
he takes her aside, and she's like, look, I didn't believe you at the time, but now I do. I know what's going on. I want to help. I
Trust
want to join
me,
the
push you out the
resistance.
window.
She claims that she knows that the signal that the alien ghouls are using to fool everybody is coming from the top of the tower of the TV station which she works for. So she's very forthcoming with this information. So you do kind of think, hey, look, she's one of the good guys, or so we were led to believe. But just as this
Yeah,
kind of this dialogue and reunion with Nada and Holly is going on, there's a big explosion, and all of a sudden the authorities are raiding
so
this
it's
meeting,
bloody
and
disco
we get it.
party guys and their guns again.
Yeah, and we get the Escape from New York vibes once again. We got the
Yeah.
red flares, and this is a real massacre. We actually get to see loads of these kind of
Oh,
background
there's some
characters
squibs
so
going
earlier
off
on.
here.
Oh, guys are getting shot
Look at
left,
that
right,
guy
and center.
throwing himself like into the bloody blackboard and blood's just splattering everywhere. Fucking
Yeah,
Call
and
of
like
Duty with
guys,
Doom
guys
jibs.
getting shot up against the wall, and like the blood just running
Yeah,
down the wall. There's another funny moment where one of the resistance guys, he goes to like try and like throw a grenade, and he just gets shot.
yeah,
The grenade just like falls out of his
yeah.
hand. But we get some great
Yeah,
action sequences of
oh,
a
they're
shootout
fantastic.
down an alley. Really, really cool. And there's like Nada and Frank, they're running through the alley, and it's this like run and
Look at the
gun fight where
color
they're like,
palette from how
yeah.
it changes just in these brief moments.
I just love it. I love seeing, the riot cops are like coming out of balconies and trying to shoot them, and like it's a real
Yeah,
kind of video game kind of
bloody
shootout
campers and
moment.
snipers.
It's brilliant though. It's brilliant. So the our two heroes, they're split away from Holly. We don't know yet just what's happened to her, and they find themselves pretty much in a dead end alley. They've nowhere to go. The authorities are closing in, and just as we think they're about to get caught or shot, they accidentally activate the teleportation device on
Whoops.
the little watch that had been given earlier on by one of the resistance guys. and they jump into the magical teleportation hole and are
it's like we're in
transported.
Outland or Star Trek in that scene now. Like the whole visuals changed and feel of it,
and they're transported to this secret facility, for want of a better term, where
is it a GameStop? Have they got exclusive Ninja Turtles figures?
they are witness to a meeting among the elites of society, many of whom they can see are actually these aliens, and it all kind of comes down to the grand plot, the great scheme by these aliens. It's really just to strip mine planet Earth for profit. They're essentially exploiting the various working classes and using them as cheap labor so they can profit and return back to their own galaxy with their gains. And the whole time they're doing this, it's been established that the level of pollution in the air and global warming and all this stuff, it's really all being caused by these aliens, because they're, like I said, they're just strip mining the planet, and they're doing everything that they can just to reap as much material reward from the planet. They don't care
they're
about
treating the
humans.
whole planet like a third world country. They take what they want and move on, rinse, repeat. Just before we go on to the next bit,
I was going to say, I believe there's a great line where someone actually says that Earth is their third world.
Yeah. And it is like very on the nose about, like America and other global superpowers using other, countries to their advantage for industries. But just before we go on to the final bits here of the film, also this scene where the thugs all, break in, did remind me of one of his other John Carpenter films. In addition to Escape from New York, I thought, The Night Shoot and the Cool Red. Also, maybe think of this film.
Yes.
Because you got this very enclosed, small space with the guys busting in. And anyone's not seen Assault on Precinct 13, cool film from the late 70s. Carpenter did, extremely low budget. And it's basically like a simple remake of Rio Bravo, like John Wayne, who's like the sheriff, hold up. The bad guys are coming into town, and they're in the sheriff's station, and they've got to just like put up a resistance. There's obviously more people going on in the scene, but the way it's framed and the just a very confined space, a lot more people, but just the guns. And I thought so much reminded me of just this, and it's so grimy and dirty, and
and Assault on Precinct 13 is a brilliant movie, and we should probably cover it one of these days when we're doing some more Carpenter stuff. And going back to that scene briefly as well with the raid, it also reminds me of, and this isn't a John Carpenter movie, but it did actually remind me of
Heresy, Mark. You're talking about JC.
It reminded me of a Paul Verhoeven movie. Actually, it reminded me of Total Recall.
I can forgive you now.
It reminded me of the moment in Total Recall when the rebel stronghold is raided. Yeah, but it's the same type of enclosed space, group of resistance fighters getting massacred by the authorities. It definitely gave off those vibes. We also see briefly before we move on to the final moments that the aliens are in possession of a kind of transport technology where you can literally beam yourself to the Alpha Centauri galaxy if you want to be transported from Earth to their home galaxy. We see that there's like people kind of queuing up to be sent on this like
Tracy wristwatch. And now they've got this transporter stuff in the 50s. Dick Tracy had all kinds of weird science fiction shit in it too. Rocket packs and nonsense. So it makes me think they've pinched all this from Dick Tracy down.
So the two lads, as they're watching this kind of meeting among the elites, are one of the Brewski brothers from earlier on happens upon them, and he's like, "Oh, guys, you made it! I always knew you guys would get on board." So you find out that this guy, he's been playing both sides. He's now in the
Wait a minute, that's the guy that wasn't with them, but then he was with them, and then he wanted to get him, but he got away.
Yes, exactly.
I'm like on Seinfeld in the cinema. I fall asleep. I'm like, wasn't he with them? Why are they after? Why do they get that guy? Oh.
So he kind of he sold out. He sold out is what he did. The Indians have offered him a lavish lifestyle if he if he turns his back on mankind and goes to work for them. So he thinks the lads are all in on the con, so he offers to bring them on a tour of the facility, which also leads them to the TV broadcasting studio, where all hell breaks loose because the two guys they're armed, they
They're
shoot
just
the shit
terrorists,
out of the
basically, at this
security
point.
guards. Yeah, like like I said, the whole
They're just
time you're
working
really
there,
hoping,
not
I hope
aliens.
yeah, I hope these guys aren't crazy. Yeah, they're committing a lot of murder here.
Yeah.
Because yeah, we got a major kind of shootout scene where the two guys they're busting through floor after floor of office space. They're gunning down aliens. They're letting real humans escape, but
And they're
they're
only
killing
shooting the
all.
aliens. They avoid any like human
That's
casualties. They
right.
aim at the aliens.
That's right. They only shoot the aliens, and while all this is going on, they run into Holly again, and it's kind of like, oh great, what, Holly's here.
Right.
We're gonna
Cheers,
all
Holly.
go
Get
to
us.
the we're going to go to the roof together, and we're going to destroy
Have a big
this
party.
broadcast satellite that's beaming out the signal. And I have to say, of all the kind of shock turns in movies, this one really gets you because they're right at the roof. Nada runs up the stairs. Pete David is right behind him, and just as he's about to take off up the flight of stairs, Holly literally pulls a little silver pistol out of her purse, puts it right
Yep.
to his temple, and then the screen just goes white because she's just blown his brains out, like
Yeah, that
he's
sucks, man.
dead. It really sucks because
Bloody femme
I just felt
fatale.
really bad for him because, like, his character, like he explained at the beginning of the movie, like he's just a working man. He was working on the
Yeah, and he
construction
got
site, and
pulled into all this
he just got
nonsense.
sucked in. Yeah, he was sending money home to his family. Like, it was a tough enough life
Mm.
he was living before, and now it's over, all because of meeting up with
Yeah, if
this
Roddy
John
Piper
Nada
comes
guy.
to town, man, you're going to get smashed in the coconuts. You're going to get AK-47s and alien. Just don't hang out with them. Drink on the weekend. Go home. Don't stay with them during the week.
When Roddy Piper comes to town, it's hell comes to Frogtown. But
Oh yeah.
so anyway, Nada, he makes it up onto the roof. He still doesn't know what's been happening. He's about to blow up the satellite dish. He's standing with his pistol aimed, and he shouts behind him. He's like, Frank, Holly, are you clear? And then we hear her say, well, I'm clear. Are you? And he turns
Mm.
around to see her pointing a pistol at him. And then he knows,
We
oh
get cool
shit.
helicopter sequence.
But it's such a bitch of a moment for him because he realizes he's been betrayed. She's got the gun on him. He kind of like raises his hands like he's going to like let it down and just drop it. But then he actually has a mini pistol concealed in his wrists, which he pulls on her. He shoots her, and he quickly turns around to shoot at the satellite broadcast machine thingy, just
Yeah.
as the cops and the helicopters open fire on him. So in this kind of double instance, he successfully destroys the machine which is broadcasting the signal, but unfortunately he's gunned down himself. And the kind of last image we see of Nada is him literally like lying bleeding, and he flips the bird to the chopper pilot. Not the not the Richard Pryor style version, but the actual correct version
That's cool.
of flipping the boat. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
And just before we go into that final bit, like in the commentary, old John Carpenter mentioned he used to be a helicopter pilot, and I feel that having that knowledge about helicopters, he films them really well. And the same with this thing, like the scenes really stand out, and they're so well shot and framed and that.
yeah, it's great. It's a great ending though, and in some ways, while you do feel obviously very sorry for Nada that he died, he still accomplished the mission because by
Well, he's
destroying
basically
the
saved the human race.
he's at the very least saved LA.
Yeah.
Because as soon as that signal has stopped broadcasting, all of a sudden everybody's able to see these ghouls for what they really are, and we get this great moment in the bar with the one guy watching TV while
Yeah.
everybody else in the bar is looking at him. And then of course news reporters are also revealed to be these ghouls, and then people are
And there's a
horrified. But
lady, fair dinkum, stark as naked on top of one of these ghouls.
it's the funniest and best way to end the movie. Yeah, you're one, she's there, she's giving your man the ride. Next thing she looks down, sees he's one of these ghoulish aliens, and he's like,
Fucking
"What's wrong,
chop-faced
baby?" And
goons.
then it just cuts to the end. It's what an ending.
I love how they all
to
have
a
this
movie.
like terrible Reagan bad 80s Wall Street hair. They all seem to have this haircut. And apparently in the film, most of the ghouls we see, including male and female, are played by the same guy who could fit into the costume of the suits.
Carpenter was kind of saying as well that in his they went
He's
through a
Patrick
few
Bateman,
kind of, I
man.
suppose,
It's just this one cipher thing character.
I think they went through a few ideas in terms of what the aliens would actually look like, but the reason he kind of
They're more
settled on this
disgusting
kind
in
of,
the tie-in comic they did in the 80s, not based on the film, but based on the short story. I was looking it up. There was a scan of it online, and oh my god, the aliens are way more disgusting in the brief comic version they did.
that's the comic that's just called Nada. Is that right?
Yeah,
That's the
yeah. It's
name of
just
the
based on
comic.
the short story, and apparently was out around this similar time as this, but it existed before it because John Carpenter licensed the old short story. He also licensed the comic as far as what was briefly in it to you that he then rewrote into this film as far as the events and overall theme and that. But he obviously adapted it
Well,
more into the 80s rather than being a 70s story.
he does mention that in his kind of backstory that the planet that these
And he changed
aliens
a lot
come
of it.
from, they've kind of the alien homeworld is pretty much a ruined Earth. They've totally
Yeah.
destroyed their planet through pollution and general mismanagement. So the reason that the aliens look the way they do is because they've lived in this terrible atmosphere on their own home world, and it's basically kind of degraded their skin and their face, and they look more like rotting corpses than they do
Yeah,
actual
yeah.
living beings.
And in the brief
But
comic
terrific
one, they've
design.
got faces almost more like bloody tentacles or insects or something you'd see in Men in Black. Really, just bizarre, weird looking faces that don't look like human faces at all. And then there's a bit where he's in this apartment where he's first got the guns and stuff, and he's running around and you can see what they are. He finds in an apartment like these eggs, just again like insects or alien. And he runs in and he's like stomping on babies of these things, and he's like, ah, like a real maniac, like stomping with his boot and splashing gore everywhere. And I'm like, Jesus, you can see why they didn't use that, but the film. And he comes across as really unhinged in the comic thing. Like, it reminds me of stuff like actually Naked Lunch, either the story or the film, or the bloody what's it called? The one they turned with Vincent Price of the vampires and the but also Will Smith got made into an
You,
Omega Man was
you
Charlton
make
Heston
man,
and
yeah.
Vincent Price. Last Man on Earth. Yeah, the tone of it,
Yes.
where it's like this one man versus this invading force or aliens or vampires, but they've all settled in. The occupations happened, and this guy just looks like a completely crazy maniac running around killing them. And there's bits where you go, should he really be killing them? Are they actually evil, or are they just different, like a different species? Should he just be running around killing everything? But that's in the short stories. In this film, these are evil, soulless, corporate vampire yuppies, and he should be fucking killing them.
Yeah, there's no question in this movie that the aliens they're evil, they're exploiting us, and
Yeah.
they don't want anything good to happen to the human race. They're essentially the cause of the class war. They've ruined society. They've made us completely they've filled our lives with inequalities and injustices,
Yeah.
and that's the thing about this movie. Like it's a sci-fi movie or whatever, but if you were to replace aliens with just powerful people, you've essentially got real life and the modern
Yeah.
day, because we kind of,
Yeah, very
without
much so. There's a lot of symbolism in it, but there's a lot of stuff that's just really on the surface, and it's like Reagan, 80s America superpowers, but and it's not just it's our modern times, but it's sort of the history. A lot of the world is like one lot of whoever's in power going and destroying or messing up their neighbors to take land and resources, and on it goes for generations. And
in a way, I kind of wish, and I know I'm getting a bit off topic, but I kind of wish in real life it was aliens that were doing all this bad stuff and not
Because then we
people.
could team up and
It's
fight back against them, like all the
yeah,
science
e-
fiction movies where they team up, like Starship Troopers,
exactly.
where the
We could
aliens were
all
bad and politics were good.
put our puny art differences aside and just join
So,
together in a
would you like
united
to know
human
more?
fighting force. Click here.
But
But
yeah,
yeah,
awesome
folks,
film.
watch
They
this
live, like,
movie.
worth watching. Like, it's great as a straight entertainment film. It's got action. It's got cool ass Roddy Piper, one of our all-time favorite wrestlers, kicking ass and taking names and chewing gum, but he's out of gum. Great film, cool soundtrack, good practical effects, good deeper meanings if you want them in there, but it also works as a straight piece of entertainment. But you can come back and watch it 10 years later, 20 years later. It really stands up, and it wasn't terribly popular with critics or of the day. It made its money and budget back, but it was kind of poo-pooed. But I mean, a lot of the critics back then were fucking dickheads who said nasty things about the best bloody films out, let alone the more lower budget ones. But it's become a real cult classic. And Mark's seen through that I'm trying to sell you things now with his glasses. Buy,
I
buy,
wasn't even
buy
listening to.
wrestling
I
figures of
wasn't.
the Undertaker. Buy as many as you can. Get all the heads, get all the parts, and just buy all of them.
I wasn't listening to anything you were saying, Johnny, because I was too horrified by your alien appearance. But no, I will say as well, thank goodness that Vince McMahon did not convince
Yeah.
Roddy
To say
Piper to
Vince
star in a
McMahon's,
movie. Vince McMahon wanted Piper to be in a movie with Hulk Hogan instead of doing this movie,
oh
so
my God, no.
I'm glad he made the
Oh,
right decision.
Piper's a character, and Hogan's he's always just the same idiot in every stupid film for kids.
Yeah, you made the right choice, Roddy. Rest in peace.
Yeah, and his legacy lives on as far as being an actor, whereas Hogan, I mean, I watch his films because they're fun and stupid, but he's never a character that's not Hogan in his films.
Yeah. Piper is the superior actor by far. When it comes to I know a lot of kind of younger viewers when they think kind of wrestling stars, they're like, oh, The Rock and Batista, but my kind of
I do
wrestling
like The
movie
Rock as an
stars will
actor. When
always
he's not
be,
just doing action, I think he can actually act.
for me, my wrestling movie stars will always be Roddy Piper and Jesse Ventura. They're the two
Oh yeah, for
A-listers in
sure.
my book.
And they're probably of a similar kilt in life. They're both kind of alternative sort of guys who had come up through the hard yards, and they didn't get an easy life when they were younger.
Yeah, great. No, this is a great movie. Like I said, anybody who hasn't watched it, I would highly recommend. And if I haven't convinced you to watch the full movie, at the very least, do yourself a favor and watch the back alley fight scene, because it's well worth it to see Roddy Piper and Keith David just beat the shit out of each other for 6 or
Oh,
7 minutes.
it's a great fight scene. There's no fancy moves, There's no, like, I don't know, kung fu kicks or nothing. It's just all straight brawling. It's awesome.
Great brawl with a couple of suplexes thrown in for good measure.
Oh yeah, bounce off the wall. But yeah, we'll finish up there. I'll catch you next time.
See you later, folks. Enjoy.